Gentlemen, the Punt Pals where the game begins. Betting on sports with our expert spins. From football fields to courtside drills. Punt Pals podcast, we pay the bills. Punt Pals, no bid and play. Join us now every sports day. Tips and picks, they never fail. Punt Pals podcast, set sail.
Hello, Triple P'ers. It is the Punt Pals podcast. Robbie Von here. Nick Ristovic here as well. Now, when I say we're both here, we're doing things a little bit differently today. Unfortunately, we've both been flat out with work, so we haven't been able to get into the same room together. So what we're going to do, we're still going to give out our multis this week. We want to make sure that we're here every week and being consistent. So I'm going to throw a few things your way, then we'll throw it over to Nick, who'll give you his multis and thoughts for the weekend as well. So it's a little bit weird this week. It's a little bit different, but you're still getting the same Punt Pals podcast goodness. So if you want to follow us, please jump on Instagram, TikTok, the Facebook group as well, Punt Pals Podcast. Search us, you'll find us. It's pretty easy, as well as your streaming services. If you can just subscribe as well, just makes life easier for everyone. And you get our podcast in your inbox or in your streaming service, just like that, automatically, no dramas at all. So thanks for supporting us, and let's roll into the episode. So AFL this week, I mean, it's kind of a weird way we're going to set this up, but I'm just going to go through a few quick multis for you, a few things that I've picked. I'm also very quickly going to talk about F1, and then I'll hand it over to Nick, who will have some multis for you, and he'll also talk about racing there as well. So looking at the footy, I've taken 4 bets this week. I've essentially gone one for every day, more or less, in a roundabout manner. I've gone 2 for Friday night. So Richmond and Essendon first up, of course, it is the Dreamtime game. Hoping the Bombers can get a win here as a good Essendon supporter. It's pretty tough times, to be honest with you. So I've got a 7-legger here. Zach Merritt for 24, Archie Roberts 27, Darcy Parish, 20 possessions. Jaden Short, 22. Jack Ross, 19. Andy McGrath, the Pidge, 16-plus disposals. And Sullivan Robbie, 15-plus. Look, I'm holding a lot of hope on this game. The Bombers have been through it lately. And just for us supporters on mental health, we need to win that. So come on, Essendon, tonight. Freo and St Kilda. Obviously, this is Nico's game that he's really pumped on. So I've just run with Flanders 19+, Sinclair 25+. Originally, I had Sarong 18+ disposals. He's obviously out injured now, so we'll be taking that leg out. It was paying $3.40. That'll just take a little bit off it. Jordan Clark 19+, Andy Brayshaw 20+ disposals, and Murphy Reid 22+. Collingwood versus the West Coast Eagles. Harley Reid's 50th. That's the big celebration. I think there's something else around Collingwood as well. I've heard whispers Pendlebury's got something happening where you can buy jumpers and all sorts of merch. But the true story is Harley Reid, the big 5-0, the legend in the making. A 5-leg multi here, odds 365. Pendles 24+, Nick Dacos 27+, Josh Dacos 20+, Tim Kelly 20+, and the man of the moment, Harley Reid, 23+ disposals. Finally, GWS and Brisbane Lions Sunday. I'm taking a 7-legger here, odds $5, so it's nice and juicy. Lockie Neal, Clayton Oliver, Finn Callahan, Lockie Whitfield, Lockie Ash, and Will Ashcroft, all 25+ possessions, plus Darcy Wilmot, 20 possessions in there as well. So they're my multis. I'll get them up on the Insta. Finally, we're just going to talk about the F1s on the weekend as well. Look, this is my second favourite sport behind AFL, and it's been a little bit of a struggle to get into it this year. It's felt so stop-start. Fortunately, we started off with a bang. We had 3 races in pretty quick succession. It was really interesting because the drivers really struggled with these new cars. The hybrids are a different beast. It's weird for the guys who have been training to drive F1s their whole life, and they've been in the system for 5, 6, 7 years type thing. People like Max Verstappen are just struggling with it, and he's very vocal about it. Yes, there might be an element of complaints because his car's not winning, but I think it is a different beast, and that's what's really benefited Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old. No one expected him to be in this position where he's leading the championship. The youngest ever championship leader. He's won 3 in a row. George Russell won the first race. So Mercedes, the Silver Arrows, have just been on top and dominating. I don't really see any change to this. The cars are just too good at the moment. So I'm going to run with Kimi Antonelli. He's adapted really well to these new cars. George, obviously, he's got to be top 3. You can barely go against him. It's just very hard to do. And the McLarens raced really well last week. So let's take Oscar Piastri in that top 3 as well. 2 markets I'm really liking at the moment is the best of the rest. Olly Behrman is driving really well in the Haas. He's just sitting ahead of Pierre Gasly and Liam Lawson. So I like Olly Behrman to be best of the rest again this week. And leading after the first lap, that's always a cracker. And Ferrari are the dominant force in this at the moment. They really wind up quickly, and it's great to watch. So if Hamilton or Leclerc qualify well, then they are in the mix for that as well. So, yeah, that's the F1s. Good luck, Canada. That'll happen. It's always weird times. It'll be Sunday night / Monday morning. You can work out the North American time difference, but it's going to be a good one. Me personally, I always watch the replay of the race on Mondays, usually a KO Mini as well, because, 20 minutes and you're done, and it's quite handy. Who's got time for a 2-hour race these days? So that's me on Punt Pals podcast. Thanks for getting around us. We have been loving doing the pod. Unfortunately, it's getting a little bit harder to get in the same room together, but we're still going to keep persevering because we love doing this. So I'm going to hand it over to Nick Risto right now, the great man, with his racing bets and info as well as multis for the week. Cheers and have a good one.
G'day, Robbie, and all the Punt Pals listeners. Thanks for the fantastic intro, mate, and absolutely loved your gear today on both the F1s and the AFL. I'm extremely excited ahead of the weekend. We've got some cracking footy games coming up through the AFL, and also we'll see what many are saying is the big milestone game, Scotty Pendlebury with his 422 games record as well, and Harley Reid with his 50th. So there's plenty of big milestone games coming up on the weekend and plenty of value on the punt. So I'm excited to rip into today's tips. But before I do that, obviously the punting review from the prior week, we must mention it was a bit of a rough one for me. Got a couple of multis up, but then ended up being voided due to players missing. So the Freo multi got up, but was voided due to Hayden Young not actually pulling on the socks and boots. The favourites multi, well, that was a disaster really, because Robbie's new coach omen ended up coming to fruition with Carlton's new coach there securing a win in his first game, which was a big upset. And then, of course, over here in Perth, West Coast, weren't they up and about after they upset GWS? So there are a couple of stiff results there. Even the goal kickers multi managed to go down in game 1, and then every single other leg came in. And probably the lesson for the punt there was Alir, and Asava Radigalia for Port Adelaide. They are both in the top 10 intercept marks in the league. So probably shouldn't have looked at that in terms of Ben King kicking a bag in that game, and it's a lesson for the punt for those who are looking at players, particularly forwards, that line up against those two big fellas. So there's a little bit in that. And then also in the West Coast game, West Coast choose to run with a dual tag, which was crazy. So they obviously tagged Whitfield off half-back and also Finn Callahan. So many of the punters would have been a bit stiff there because the dual tag scenario meant Whitfield went under 25 disposals and Callahan under 20. So just something to keep an eye on, the dual tag. It could be a trend for West Coast, and that might play havoc with a few multis as you look through the games over the weekend, particularly those teams, of course, playing against West Coast. Now, this weekend, onto the AFL multis, and I'm looking at one which is the Milestone Man multi. Of course, that is Scott Pendlebury. He breaks the game's record over the weekend, and I think they're going to be looking for him absolutely everywhere. So I'm going to take Pendles to kick 2 goals, 5 tackles, have 8 marks and 18 kicks. That's $28. So boosted, you'll get $31. So it's a full Pendles assault, but I think he will be very prominent in front of goal. They'll be looking for him late, particularly if it's a blowout. I think 5 tackles is pretty regulation for him. 8 marks, he'll be loose everywhere behind the footy and forward of the footy. And then his 18 kicks, well, he's always been pretty elite user by foot. So $31 for that one boosted. I really do like it. The game I'm probably most excited about over the weekend, other than my good Freo game, of course, is the big blockbuster between Sydney and Geelong. Both teams absolutely flying, have beat all before them. And I think in this game, the prolific ball winners are going to really step up on the big stage. Expecting Bailey Smith to go 28 posies plus, Max Holmes to have some decent footy of 23 plus, Nick Blakey, the Lizard off halfback at 22 plus, Justin McInerney for Sydney, who's been an absolute revelation this year, top 10 in most categories in the AFL and flying under the radar, 22 plus. Tanner Bruin having a great year, 25 plus last week. We'll take him here conservatively at 19 plus. Isaac Keeney, 20 plus. Mills, 20 plus for Sydney. And then in the goals category, Manor anytime, who kicked a big bag last week, as most would have seen, and Jeremy Cameron, 2 goals plus. So they're the first two. I've got one more AFL multi for you. And of course, it's going to be the Fremantle game. And Caleb Sarong out for 2 weeks. I think this is a bit of a clue for those looking to structure a multi in this game, that others from that Freo mix will be carrying bigger midfield minutes in the absence of Sarong. So I think it's time to cash in on this one, to be honest. I think Brayshaw's got to be spending a lot more time in there. He'll be the mainstay midfielder, I think, the experienced body. He'll be 22 plus, no problem at all. Shai Bolton, who seems to go in there in spurts, he'll now spend some more time on the ball, I think, in the absence of Sarong. So 20 plus looks very feasible for him. Jordan Clark off half-back, 20 plus. Let Robbie down a couple of weekends ago at 19, but I think he'll be very much a carrier and distributor of the footy off half-back. Murphy Reid, his PB game last week. Let's ride that momentum, 21 plus for him. Another WA boy, Max Hall for St Kilda, had a very, very good game last week, 25 plus. I'm taking him for 18 plus in this game. Brad Hill, the former Fremantle player, 18 plus for him. And then, of course, the Prancing Pony and Josh Tracy to kick a goal. So that's my conservative one at $3.75. The previous two, one at $7.50 for the blockbuster game, and then the $31 multi, all on Pendles in his milestone game there as well. You probably have a look at other milestone games, like I think Harley Reid, 20 plus and a goal for him would be pretty consistent. You could probably roll that into Pendles, 20 and a goal, if that's something you want to look at. And quite a few blokes are breaking that multi as well. So there are a couple of options for the footy ahead of the weekend. And then on the racing front, it is actually a pretty exciting weekend. We're seeing a lot of these Group 1 performers step up to 2,000 metres in the Group 1 Doomben Cup in Queensland. Half Yours, Birdman, they're leading the market. I'm tending to lean here with Half Yours. I've stayed on the horse. It's the entire preparation. It's gone from 1,600 to 1,800 now to 2,000. Starting to get out to the pet distance, I think, now. Was flashing home late last week for a third, and we put Half Yours in the multi. So I was a bit disappointed there, but I think in this field, step up in distance. I think this has been the target race all along, so I'll be taking the $3.70, which you're probably not going to get for Half Yours if it continues to win those big races like it did as in the Melbourne Cup and Caulfield Cup last year. The danger, though, in this race, prior to Jenny, I did talk about not backing horses in races that she features in. So to have a saver, I'll have a trifecta with Half Yours, Pride of Jenny, and the Chris Waller runner in Birdman, just in case Pride of Jenny strings them out, wins, and Half Yours flashes home for second or third. Not to forget over here in the West, though, we have the Racing WA Provincial Series final at Belmont. Week 2 at Belmont, and week 1 was unbelievable. They were winning from everywhere from the track. Willie Pike put on a masterclass in the last 3 races of the day, including the last race where he got one home at 7.50. So I'm interested to see what Pike is going to do again on Saturday. I'm backing him to get the job done in the main race with the Dan and Ben Pearce runner Rain Line at $3.10. It's very consistent, top 2 finishes in 4 of its last 5 starts. But in that race, I'll also have a saver on the top waiting. God Has Drifted, horse number 1. It dislodged the jockey last start. Hard to get a read on the horse, but prior to that was very, very good. So Rainline the winner, God Has Drifted as a saver in that race. And then in the last race, you got to back Pike in the last, don't you? He's on Mississippi Dawn at $5.50. It's firmed in from about $7.50 when markets opened. It's hard to ignore the form of the horse. I think he's got a very, very nice chance to boot the punters home in the last there at Belmont. If you are in Perth and looking for something to do on Saturday, of course, get down to Belmont. The facilities have been well received by everyone there on week 1. The big screen's in full swing, plenty of footy on all the screens inside and outside the venue, and it's been a great vibe down there already. So if you do make your way down, come and say hi. Caught up with one of our loyal listeners, Mick, last week. Had a beer with him and a chance to go out to the barriers and see the horses jump. And it's always good to see the Punt Pals listeners out there in the wild and enjoying the racing or the sport. So hope to see a few of you down there on Saturday. Thanks again for listening to the Punt Pals podcast and sticking with us. And Robbie and I look forward to catching up in the studio last week and hopefully unpacking a massive weekend of winners. We will be looking again at a challenge for 1,000 to 5,000 next week as well, so stay tuned for that. We've got a cracking show in store for you next week, and can't wait to catch up with you too. Great man, Robbie Von. All right, have a good weekend. Gamble responsibly, of course, and we look forward to speaking with you all again next week. See ya.